Good morning, good evening, crypto astronauts, depending on where you're tuning in from, and welcome back to the Bitcoin and crypto paradise. All right, guys, so I'm coming on here a bit casual today. This isn't a super well prepared presentation here. This is more of a casual, let's talk, let's brainstorm, let's look at the charts. Let's just see if we find anything that looks interesting here. But this is not financial advice. None of this is investment advice either. This content is intended only for entertainment and education purposes. I just have to say that before we get started. So I'm looking at some interesting things here. If you're tuning in live, definitely send me some comments. I love some interaction here. But so this is the Bitcoin chart, and I'm looking at some time analysis just for fun. I know it's really, really hard to predict, times, like when things are going to go up, when things are going to go down. But let's just look at some things here just for fun. So this is a Bitcoin chart. The blue line is the altcoin, the total 3. So, and then here is just total 3. I'll clean this up in a second, but this is what I was looking at here. So total 3 is the market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's create some more space here. Let's open this up a little bit. So I was looking at, the last year when we saw the altcoins go on a rampage. We saw a big pump and then a correction. Correction was just a bit above the previous peak in 2018 before we headed up to the all-time high here. So when could we be seeing a run like this again? And it might look a bit different. Not every single run is the same exact, doesn't have the same exact setup. But I was looking at, the previous peak to basically where it really started to break out. And that was 1,092 days. And then I also looked at from the very low of the last cycle to up until it really started to break out. That was about 749 days. So I did the same thing for the next cycle. 10,092 days. That takes us out here to May 6th. And then I did the same for from the market low. 749 days takes us out to January 13th, 2025, till next year. So, that is pretty interesting because in terms of the altcoins, I know this is looking a little crazy here. So here we are sitting today. That gives us 12 bars. That's 12 weeks because we're on the weekly chart here. 12 weeks, all the way from 12 weeks to 48 weeks, until the altcoins really start to go on a rampage. So that does leave us with this kind of room of 36 weeks here, give or take. And I set up so either we only have 12 weeks before we potentially back test this level at 534, because that's usually what happens. Usually we let's zoom in here. Oh my God, it's looking a little crazy here. All right, let's clean this up. Let's turn that one off. So that gives us because usually we're gonna go above this previous swing top here. We go up, then we back test it, before we head up. So I'm thinking that's scenario 1. Either we do that, or scenario 2, we kind of stay in this range all the way until next year, January, before we start heading up. So, man, I mean, either of these scenarios is possible. But let's take a look at Bitcoin. You know, everything with the altcoins depends on Bitcoin. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart, shall we? So typically the altcoins really go on a rampage when Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. Last time that was right here. Could put a line there. Let's see, right here, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. Let's put that in blue. And then we could bring up the altcoins here. I'm gonna make it blue. Okay. So the blue line is the altcoin market. I made this purple line here for when kind of the last buying opportunity for altcoins before they had starting to head up. Or, you know, we can simplify it. Let's just say the blue line where Bitcoin broke out. So typically the altcoin market really goes up when Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, or when it retraces, because if we look at the last cycle peak here with the altcoin market, let's zoom in. I'm going to go back to 2018. The altcoin market, yes, it went on a rampage, but it didn't hit the all-time high until Bitcoin. So, you know, so Bitcoin peaked out right here, December 2017, but the altcoin market was still down here. So the altcoin market did not peak until Bitcoin retraced. And how high did it retrace? It went past the 50%, so it retraced probably to the 702. I mean, I can double check that. Let's pull up the... So it retraced to the 702, as blockchain backer likes to do. And that is when the altcoin market hit its peak on that retrace. So that's interesting. So Bitcoin hit the 702 there. If we go to where we are now, what's Bitcoin up to now? Let's zoom out. You know, so Bitcoin is currently retracing up to you know, 50,000 here. We're past the 0.618. If we head up to 53,000, it would then be retracing to the 0.702. Last time that happened, it didn't hit that in 2022. It got really close. And when it got really close, I mean, the altcoin market was almost completely peaking out. But this, I mean, potentially, if Bitcoin goes to 53,000 to this 0.702 retracement, I mean, hypothetically, the altcoin market could be peaking out. That's really interesting to think about. If not, if the altcoin market still just, here's the altcoin market down here, this blue line. If it's still just hanging out down here, then it's not going to happen. But if it's really shooting up, if we're seeing some crazy altcoin action, like we're just shooting up, then we could hit a altcoin market peak if Bitcoin hits 53,000 hypothetically. I'm not going to rule that out. So it's possible, man. That would be crazy. And that could happen soon. And because if we look at how long that took for this altcoin market, if you started down here, went all the way up here, and then it peaked out, you know, that only took, we hit the first peak around May 10th. So that was 21 weeks. And then we hit the all-time high peak of the altcoin market in 47 weeks. And right now if we just, the altcoin market's still down here. If we start from where we're at right now, let me see, how many weeks was that again? 47 weeks. If we go 47 weeks, that could take us to, January 2025. Huh. So the altcoin market could hit a peak by January 2025. What if it does something like it did this time, where it goes up really to a peak and then it corrects and then it goes up again? Then it would be less. It would be only 21 weeks. So 21. July 2024. So we could be potentially hitting a peak July 2024. That's possible because there's a very negative astrology in July. So the altcoins could peak out then and then have a big dump. That's very interesting. That's definitely possible. I mean, that also lines up with the Fed funds rate that I'll pull up here. The Fed's funds rate, we could see the markets, we could see the Fed cutting rates. Oh, geez. Let's see if this loads. For some reason, it's not loading. We can try again. For the markets to correct, typically that can happen. Let's look at the probabilities of them cutting rates. So right now we are at, let me look at the current rate. We're at 525 to 550. 91% probability that we're gonna pause in March as well. Wow. And if we go further out, 50% probability that we're going to cut in June. That's interesting. So that would take us out to June, and then markets could have a correction after that potentially. Oh, interesting. Let's look at total 3 again. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. Hey, what's up, guys? All right. one commenter is saying, Crypto Thurl, you got 3,000 and you need 20x. This is your last chance. All right, well, I wouldn't get too trigger happy. I wouldn't get too anxious. You know, I think the next 12 weeks, you have your chance to pick the right altcoins. You know, not financial advice, but it's important to pick ones that you think are going to do the best. And there's a lot that goes into that. I could talk about that in the future, but more importantly, get a session with me if you want to do a really deep dive on how to pick the right altcoins, because you could. I'm doing a really deep analysis on altcoins, and pretty confident you could get a 20x this run, especially if you're willing to hold it for a couple years. So it's definitely possible. All right, Birch Harvey. This local high because of Jupiter square ascendant. Expect a little pullback as this aspect separates. Let me read that again. This local high because of Jupiter square ascendant. You know, historically, I have not seen correlations with the Jupiter square, the Bitcoin ascendant. Typically, it doesn't have that much of an effect from what I've seen. I've looked historically at the Jupiter transits. The Jupiter squares tend to not have much of an effect. In fact, it can be a positive effect sometimes. But I wouldn't rule out a pullback. A pullback is definitely possible. I mean, the markets are looking pretty high right now. If we take a look at least Bitcoin. I'm assuming you're talking about Bitcoin here. Let's clean up this a little bit. Let me take off this one. So we look at Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin's all the way up here, 49,500. You know, it would be very healthy to have a correction here for Bitcoin. And we haven't gotten much of a correction so far. I mean, we only went down to 38,500. You know, if we want to hit an all-time high, we actually need to see Bitcoin have more corrections in the coming months. And if we don't, that's not going to be a very good sign for those who want to hold Bitcoin for the next all-time high. So in my opinion, it's actually good. We want more corrections with Bitcoin. You know, we had the ETF correction back here in January, but it didn't last very long. It only lasted, wow, just a couple weeks. We want to see longer drawn out corrections like we did in July, so that, because we need to build more support. Otherwise, we could have a big, nasty correction at some point. So I'll keep you updated on that. So, I mean, I would be celebrating if Bitcoin did correct again. Now, I talked about this in my last video, but we could see some activity like this. We could be seeing activity like this right now with Bitcoin, where it's peaking out. It's, you know, hits like one peak, then a second peak, then a fourth peak, then a third peak, then a fourth peak. This is a distribution type phase here. So if we see something like that for Bitcoin, and then we have a correction after that, that could be healthy. You know, see how we're getting one peak, two peaks, three peaks here. Or maybe perhaps this is the first peak that we had on January 8th, around there. And then we're hitting the second peak now. Or are we seeing more of this scenario where it's just like one peak, two peak, and then that's game over? Now, it's not necessarily game over, but just for setting up for a correction before we head up higher, and that would be healthy. So I am personally having cash on the sidelines to prepare for a scenario like that. That would be the best case scenario, in my opinion. if we want to see crypto do very well, which is very, very likely at this point because it's a very bullish setup. All right, so we have next question. Assuming all-time high with Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, possibly in May with all the Taurus action. You know, I mean, Jupiter-Uranus. So, I mean, Jupiter-Uranus is, I know it's exciting. It's in Taurus. You know, Uranus is the planet of technology in crypto. But this is potentially a start of a new cycle. Potentially, and sometimes when we see a start of a new major positive cycle, sometimes it's more of a bottoming formation because it's starting. So kind of like the new moons, when we're starting the next moon cycle for that month, Bitcoin tends to kind of bottom, or wait, no, it tends to peak out before it falls down, before it corrects. And then the full moon, it kind of bottoms out before it pumps. So I'm actually not thinking, I'm not thinking that Bitcoin is hitting an all-time high in May. Let's see. I mean, it is possible, but I'm personally not banking on that. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is, I would say, bullish for crypto and technology. But it's certainly possible that the all-time highs, the big peaks that you're probably talking about, could be later, further out. It could head into 2025. So it could be, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction could be a major conjunction that sets us up to be heading to an all-time high later. I'm thinking end of this year into 2025, probably all-time high 2025. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's look at the, let's go to the altcoins. Total 3. One thing that's interesting is we look at let's clean this up a little bit. I mean, look at the volume here. Let's see. Look at the volume down here. So we got this green candle here, but then down here, we got red candle, red candle, red candle. Then we're getting green candles, but they're lower. Wait, I was thinking, oh wait, let me go to the daily. That was interesting. So the daily, we have, all of these green candles down here. But then we get this red candle, and the red candle is much higher than these other green candles. Oh, we're now clocking in a green candle right now. So that's positive. We want this candle to hold green but we have to wait until the end of the day here. So we got this red candle that's quite high. So we're potentially getting, we could get some correction coming in here, because the last time we got a red candle this high was in this area, and the market's corrected. Also back here, and the market's corrected then. So we could, it is good news that we're getting a green candle for the next day, but we have to wait till the day closes. But this red candle is pointing out a possibility that we could see a correction down there like that. So it'll be interesting to see if we correct, how far we're correcting here with the altcoins. I'm thinking it could be a good buying opportunity if we correct down. Now, how far we correct is the question. Let's let me use this arrow here. So, are we going to correct down to here, this trend line, and then bounce back up? Are we going to correct down to here, this kind of floor area, And this is the altcoins, by the way, before we head back up. Or we can correct even further down. That would be if we have some crazy world event. And if we corrected down that far, I mean, it's definitely possible. We would definitely want to see support building out here at these levels. You see these tops here. So that'd be the most bearish scenario. I would buy super hard if we went down here. But probably is more likely we're just going to bounce either to here or we're going to bounce down there before we head back up. That's what I'm thinking. The weekly candles, we're getting red, but then we're getting green. It's tough to say here. We could even look at the monthly. January, we got a red candle. We're getting a green candle so far in February. We got 4 candles, September, October, November, December. Tough to say. We could almost go either way. Today, what do you think? Doing a little bit of rhyming there just for fun. Okay, any other comments? Send the comments in if you'd like me to answer any questions. Just coming on here for fun. If anyone wants a one-on-one session with me, let me know. We can do a super deep dive on any altcoins that you're looking at. I'm looking at a lot of altcoins. Maybe I'll share. I mean, you can see my list there, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to do a deep dive on these. I've already been looking at these so much. Render needs to close above the previous swing top here. So it needs to close above $5 today to be looking bullish. Keeping my eye on that. I mean, there's a lot of altcoins, so. Oh, DOT's doing pretty well. I would not buy it though right now. Let's look at the hourly on Bitcoin. How's Bitcoin holding up right now? Clean this up. So we went below. We went down to 48,300 and then we're sitting up. Still looking pretty good, Bitcoin. I'm looking to see if it forms, if it starts bouncing off of the 90,000, if it starts, well, it's already building lower highs here now, so that's a bit bearish. As you see here, we hit the peak at 50,400, then we're hitting a lower peak, 49,700. So let's see if we keep making lower highs, that's more bearish. Or if we hit a higher high. And then let's look at the altcoin market. Let me look at this one here. Oopsies. And clean this up. Oh my gosh, I don't know why it does this. I mean, I already have a membership for these guys. Oh, maybe they're not gonna let me look at that one. I don't know. Do you guys know why sometimes TradingView doesn't? I literally have a paid account. Okay, anyways, here we go. So the altcoins we just hit, let's go to the 4 hour. We hit a peak here and now we're kind of hitting lower highs. So keep my eye on that. Yeah, we're not. We're getting this red candle on the daily for yesterday. That's pretty high red volume. Yeah, so I mean we could be correcting here. Unless we go much higher today past like 528. If we have a really good close today, if the market closes above 528, that would be bullish. But we'll see. All right, let's see if there's any more questiones. Transit Pluto coming into conjunction with the 7th house Mercury is interesting. Okay, let's look at some astrology. Transit Pluto coming into conjunction with 7th house Mercury. You're looking at the Bitcoin chart here? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, typically with Pluto, with Mercury, we could see some... Well, let me look at the astrology here. Let's pull up the astrology. Well, right now, Pluto and Mars are conjunct, and that can lead to explosive events. It could be a market dump or a market pump. So far, markets are hanging on. Markets are being really chill. Let's see. So it looks like, did Mars already conjunct? Yeah, so they're conjuncting maybe in the next, within the next probably 30 minutes or so. Mars and Pluto in Aquarius, I mean, that could be really positive. Okay, yeah, so you're talking about the Bitcoin natal. All right, we'll look at that in a second. But yeah, I mean, Mars and Pluto is two powerful planets. Now, I mean, it is a bit malefic, so we could see a major dump possibly. But the fact that it's in Aquarius, we could also see a very positive move for Bitcoin, you know, technology stocks. So that's interesting. It's a little tough to predict that. Natal Mercury at 247. Yep, there it is. And then Pluto. Yeah, so Pluto's getting close. I mean, that could be pretty positive. They're both in the sign of Aquarius. Let's see. Let's look at Pluto. Yeah, so Pluto's going to get... Is it going to get exactly conjunct? Let's see. No, it's not going to get exactly conjunct because it's going to retrograde in May. But it's going to get really close to the Bitcoin Mercury. So that's happening April. Tough to say. It's not going to get that exact conjunction. So it might not have a super big effect on it. But when does it... And then it gets exactly conjunct. 2025. Look at this. Almost exactly February 25th, 2025. I mean, I could definitely see Bitcoin like heading to an all-time high around then. And an explosive altcoin market. So perhaps that's when it happens. I mean, Pluto is super powerful planet hitting the Bitcoin Mercury, which represents the markets and trade, in the sign of Aquarius, which is potentially very positive for crypto. So that could be very positive when it gets that exact conjunction. Yeah, pretty much exactly on the 25th. Yeah, good question. That's interesting. I mean, I'm thinking about around that time things are going to be could be very, very positive moves for crypto. Could be really starting to explode upwards. So that's interesting. Thanks for pointing that out. Birch Harvey. Yeah, keep sending the questions, comments. Very interesting. All right. Well, if that's it for now with the questions, we can wrap it up here. Just thought I'd come on here today. This is fun. Just casually looking at the markets here. All right, well, thanks for everybody tuning in. I mean, Bitcoin's still holding up strong. We'll see if it's going to correct down or if we're going to continue to march upwards. We just need to see continued higher lows, which we're seeing, and then higher highs. And then that's still positive until we break down. All right, so thanks for tuning in. Let's see, you said, I think you're right about that pump in February 25th. Yeah, cool. All right, thanks guys. Thanks Birch. Thanks everybody who are tuning in on the replay. Yeah, keep the comments coming. I could make new videos about new topics that you think of. Things are looking pretty good. And I'll see you on the next one. I'll be coming out with many more videos on the Bitcoin astrology and altcoins as well. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.